Okay, folks, welcome back. So we were working on earlier today the 250/9 half track from Eschi. And kicking its butt all up and down the street because it had issues. But we seem to have resolved those. And these rear windows, for some reason, I must have touched them at the very last minute and they got glued. Not in the position that I wanted. There we go. Right, let's keep my hands off that. And this wheel is being incorrigible. And falling down. So we're going to have to glue this in another method. Might be a hot glue gun type of situation here. And we'll move that to the side. This is definitely, like I said earlier, this is going to be something that's got to be on a stand. Just keep hands off of it and damaging it unintentionally. It's pretty delicate. Well, we got some extra parts here that I tried to look for some pictures of it online, but there's all kinds of conflicting information, seems like, on it. I created a Pinterest for it. Just to see where these tools are. And we got the pickaxe definitely on this side. It looks like the shovel and things like that are on the other side. So I think that's what I'm going to do is we're going to put the... Where did the shovel go? Yeah, here's the shovel. I'm going to put the shovel up on this side. It looks kind of empty not having anything on the side here of the half track. And then we're going to keep this screw. We're not worried about these figures right now. These are nice figures. I'm going to take this box off. And this wheel. We'll put this in the German parts bin. And these crew members. Alright, here's this little shovel. And this little step here that I don't see any photographic evidence of there being a step on it, so I'm leaving it off. Thought I was going to get a chance to start painting some of this stuff, but yeah, no big deal. And which way do you want the shovel? Want the shovel handle forward? Shovel handle forward. Yeah, sits on there just fine. All right, we're going to put the shovel in position. Something like that. Good evening from northern Michigan. You said earlier you got in some snow, didn't you? I think you did. All we got is rain today. It's like a stereoscopic type device here. Is there a space for it? There is. I'm going to go ahead and put it on there. And I have a little bit of a surprise. It's nothing exciting, but I had started working on something before this one, and I wasn't able to finish it because it looked like it was an incomplete kit, and it's still kind of an incomplete kit, but I think we're going to be able to get on with it. But now I'm starting to understand why this person sold all the stuff that they sold. Okay, that one goes there. I'm going to move over to this side. We're going to put this little stereoscopic thing in this location down in here. Let's get it in where we want it first. Something like that. Yeah. Okay, and then on this side, we're going to have this little series of boxes. I'm just going to put them like the boxes they tell you. It just helps fill this space in, and it's not that big of a deal. It's snowing again, 18 degrees. Yeah, see, so something for that is someone who's not used to snow, that would be myself, is I just assumed, especially when I was a kid, if it got under freezing, it'd be snowing all the time. And that's not true. It's like if it's supposed to rain, it's a form of precipitation. So I always thought, hey, it's 12 degrees, it must be snowing. Well, no, that's not true. I don't understand these snow things, but I'm going to put this little box here, make sure it fits in place. I'm going to put it right there, and we're going to put this weld cement and weld it around, and push it down a little bit, and that's where this is going to go. All right, and then this box here, we needed the rain though. It was super, super dry. We're going to take this other box and place it further along. Oh, it's this one. There we go. It can be 35 degrees outside in Stone. Is that about as hot as it can be? What do they call it when it's sleet? That would be if it's not quite snowing, frozen rain. I know one thing I wouldn't like about the snow. That's you put all that salt down and ruin your car. There's what instead of renewing my lease, I was thinking about getting another car, and the car I was thinking about getting had come from Maryland, and it had like rust damage and shit like that. You could tell on it. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that in my life. Put this around it. You got damage from trucks on the road with rocks and stuff, and salt damage. Like, I don't need that shit. 38 is freezing rain in Michigan. Yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with the gray skies that go with that. What are you working on these days, Justin? Wah! And by the way, did you ever play the Flames of War rules before you said, you know, this is crap. I can do a better job with it. I'm gonna put this here. This is going to be a good looking little vehicle. I'm going to put that there. It looks good. Now, now we got it full of stuff. So whether or not we actually put these on here, we're okay with it. I'm going to go ahead and put this there, and I'm going to put the little crank below it. Now let's just do it the way we handled everything else. We'll put this at an angle. Yeah, right there. So, after all said and done, I probably would pick up another one of these. The problem is that they're pretty delicate. Like, you got to be really careful that you don't mishandle them, because they just have a lot of like little I guess you got to be choosy who plays with you. You don't want to invite somebody over and they trash all your shit. Flames of War rules suck. Read the rule book. We all said no. Probably one of the things that I think is the worst about the rules. I mean, I've said this before. I love their website. I mean, I think they make good miniatures. I think the products they sell are high quality. I don't like the codex mentality, but whatever. I just don't like that you're given a bill selling a bill of goods that's supposed to be a 1-to-1 scale game. You can't have a 1-to-1 scale game and be like, okay, this is front and everything else is side. Like, okay, you need to have, turret rotation and stuff like that. So, like, the game it plays like a 1-to-5 scale game. Like, where one tank actually represents more than one tank. It just doesn't seem like a 1-to-1 scale game. But their miniatures, their website's excellent. I've gotten some ideas from the website, especially the guys that put some of the stuff together on the unit histories on some of the stuff. Really well done. Easy. And I'm going to put this little guy right there. Okay, we got to straighten out these tires, these wheels. That's, I think, the only thing we got left. Need to straighten these things out again. Note to self, put those on last. Little rear view mirrors. Yeah, you can get. I went to this used bookstore, and you can get the old Flames of War's rules for really cheap. If you just need like inspiration for orders of battle or something like that. Oh no, this broke off. Well, that's freaking stupid. Now, let's weld this back together. All right, we're going to leave that be. And then this wheel, the height on it isn't right. I'm going to worry about that in a little bit because there's something else that it's going to need to get the same treatment. So that little armored car is pretty much, or little armored half track is pretty much done. All right. So let's get all this stuff out of the way, and then let's bring this Airfix truck back up that I said was missing all the pieces. Well, I was kind of right, and I was kind of wrong. They're there, but they're extremely mismolded. And I don't know if that's why this person got rid of it, but we should be able to make it work. So this is like literally the first thing I was putting together, and I couldn't find some of these suspension pieces, and they're here. The problem is they're almost missing. They never got cast correctly. So I think I'm going to put everything together except that, and if I have to build something out of wood to put it underneath there and then hide it, I think we can get by with that. And you just make the best out of a bad situation. Luckily, it's on the underneath part. So let's put the stuff together that we know. So we're going to go in our own order. So normally we would put this here working on here and the cab. So let's go ahead and install that, unless we're missing the cab. I pretty much gave up on this because I just immediately thought it was missing all kinds of stuff. All right, this goes in like this, and we can go ahead and install that. As I built those Russian trucks from BP Cast, and the whole undercarriage was basically missing. So I just made it out of freaking wood. You know, and I mean, if you go back there, yeah, you can tell it's missing, but I don't care about the underside of the truck. It's either that or you end up like not using it. So the alternatives of making something are a hell of a lot better than just throwing it away. And this is going to have to look better than the other thing. The other thing's just trash. And it worked just fine. Okay? So, we got that. We got this suspension that is these little leaf spring suspensions. Two of them are supposed to go across here, and they're kind of rickety. So, I'm not able to put those on there. And it's just something that the axle is going to sit on top of. So I think if I just make it out of a couple pieces of basswood that are the same height, I think that should do the trick. So that's what I'm going to go with, is we're going to replace these two with the pieces of basswood. I'm going to go ahead and write myself some notes here. So when I come in here and see if we can knock this thing out of the park. They don't even have to be the same shape, just the same height. So we're going to go ahead and make these out of basswood. Okay. Replace with basswood. All right. So we've checked this off. We've done this suspension here. We've done the cab part there. Do we have this piece number 4? This piece number 4, tell me these things are labeled. I wish there weren't parts for the gun and parts for the cab on the same one. But the Pack 40 that comes with this is actually pretty decent looking. And the crew members are too. They painted up really nice. Even though I'm probably not going to use the same ones for this crew. We need some guys in snow gear. So piece 4 is right here. Okay. That's piece 4. Piece 3 is like a little drive shaft, and it should be near piece 4, but it's not. This is piece 11, similar to that. It's a different drive shaft. Piece 3 is right here. Okay, we'll remove that. And that. Yeah, there's several pieces here that are mismolded. I'm not going to contact Airfix or none of that crap. We'll make do with this. Okay. All right, this piece has 2 little holes in it. And does this fit correctly in here? It does. So we're going to drip some cement. and weld that puppy shut. And this suspension that I'm replacing, because it didn't get molded correctly, is extremely flimsy. So hopefully what I replace it with will be less flimsy. Okay, this piece will go. Yeah. Okay. Well, dude. Dude. This one goes here. This one goes in here. You brittle motherfucker. I'm just going to leave that other piece off. No need to be that accurate with this thing when the suspension is going to be a shit show. All right. Piece H. The H piece number 7. 10, 9, 22. I have never built any Flames of War stuff because it's 15 millimeter. And the reality is if I would have started doing this 20 years later, I may have done skirmish in 15. But 15s weren't, like Ancients, Medievals, there's no way I would consider any scale other than 15. So I don't dislike 15s. They weren't there, and they just weren't available at the time that I was doing it. I'm playing a pseudo role-playing game with the figures, so I want a variety of different figures. So they didn't exist in 15 millimeter at the time. All right, this is going to go right here in the back end, so we're going to go ahead and glue that there. And when I got back into this, I wasn't just going to disown all the 20 millimeter stuff that I had and start another scale. I already had 20 millimeter stuff painted. I already had lots of 20 millimeter figures that I really liked. So it's just natural for me to just continue on with that. Okay, the big exhaust thing, which I believe has all kinds of issues with it not having an attachment point. I'm going to leave the exhaust off at this point. It's just going to get flimsy. It's going to get in the way. I'm going to circle it. So we'll come back to it. All right, let's go ahead and put the axles and the wheels together, and that'll tell me the height that I'm going to need to get these pieces on there, because the leaf springs that go back here and the leaf springs that go up here are not molded all the way. I mean, they are. The injection stuff did not go in there. You can see. This is actually the one that has the best detail. This one right here. And it's not molded correctly. Same thing with this one. The other two is here, and I guess it's here. It never even molded. You could tell it's kind of melted on there. The plastic didn't go in there. Not only that, look at the shield on the Pac 40 gun. It's not complete either. So there was a molding situation here that gone awry. So I'm going to build these axles, and then we're going to sit these axles on pieces of basswood that I'm going to try to get close to the distance between here and the top. And it's just going to be flat strips of wood. They're not going to be curved. They're just going to be flat and the same height. And that should work fine. We'll super glue them, and it is what it is. It's either you do that or you don't have a working vehicle. And you could tell they go from there to there, and from there to there. All right, because I was like looking at this, I'm like, I got all the wheels. I got all the wheels for this thing. All right, so axle 12 is the front axle. That's this one right here. And these pieces are brittle as hell. This guy must have had them in a garage or something like that. Look, I just taking it off. It broke off in the middle here that I hadn't even touched. It's got a case of like leprosy or something. All right, oh, come on. For Christ's sake. I'll make a fucking wreck out of you. If I have to. Just like another day at work, I'm dealing with somebody else's problems. This guy's unloaded his problems. I'm selling this fucking thing. I don't want to deal with it no more. And I go and buy it. Jeez. It's that side. What about bolt action tanks? No. No, I would do 15s. I'm not doing 28s. I do not like 28s. Don't take it personal. Not like, you don't like people that do 28. No, I don't have a problem with people that do 28 millimeter. I would never do 28s. I don't like them. I don't like there's some decent looking 28 millimeter, but would never do World War II with them. It's not my thing. Okay, I'm afraid I may have to leave that overnight. Okay, well, I fully expect this one to be all brittle and shit, too. Don't store your kits in the fucking garage if you live in Florida. It's hot as hell. And it destroys everything. The only 28 millimeter stuff that looks really intriguing is that company called Rubicon. I believe that's who they are. And they make stuff at 28 millimeter. And what's cool about them is that you could buy like a Panzer III set and like build every Panzer III out of it. You only get one in the kit, you know. I've never did a 28 millimeter for challenge. Yeah, they're too expensive. They take up, I always would hear people complain, I don't do the larger scales because it takes up too much space. And I'm like, how is space a problem? Now I understand. Well, when you have hundreds of vehicles, it makes a difference. If you have, 10, space isn't an issue. Okay, this is going to have to sit on top of whatever suspension I do here. So we need 17 and 18 that make up these wheels. So 17 is here and 18 is here. So and 19 and 20, right? They labeled them different for every wheel, even though they're interchangeable. Okay, that's one of them. All right, I know we're going to be able to make this work. I don't want to make a wreck out of this. It needs to be out on the board so somebody else can make a wreck out of it. Okay, and then here's the inside wheel of that. Right, these are the back wheels that go attached to that. See, I've never played any war. I don't need 28 millimeter World War II to remind me of my Warhammer days, because I never had Warhammer days. The only 28 millimeter stuff that I have is I've got some HeroClix figures, but they're on the stand, and I thought about painting them, but I don't even like superheroes. But it's a decent game. It just needs some. It needs some house rules for it. And there's probably some house rules out there for it. But don't have time for everything. All right. So this is the inside wheel. Gets attached like this. And then this one is like this, and there's no... Come on, stop flipping shit on the floor. You end up being your own worst enemy. All right, let's see if this will behave. This goes here, and then this goes here. Gotta be really careful that we don't put extra pressures on this and we snap this axle. I think I need to make this a tiny little bit shorter. So that way it slides in through here and doesn't stick out so far, so when we put the other one, it fits on there correctly. Okay, that one's good. And then on this side, it's the same. Let's see if we need to cut down this axle as well. Yeah, a little bit. You can hear how brittle it is. It's like sun-baked. The heat in the garage baked all the moisture out of it. So I picked up some secondhand stuff from this guy that I know. He says, hey, I had this stuff in the attic, and it had already been like, not only it had been damaged, it had been like compromised. The elasticity on it had been compromised, and there was a bunch of soft plastic figures, and they actually smelled. They smelled like the plastic was already breaking down. Now, they'll end up working all right, but it was like, man, what's the smell these figures have? And it's the polyethylene or whatever the hell it is was already breaking down on them. Okay, so here is the axle that is going to sit, that would normally sit on the leaf springs, which are really flimsy. And we're just going to put 2 pieces of wood and sit that on top of them as well. Okay? And we may have to use a big old goop of hot glue gun, but we should be able to get that to work. Now, the front is this axle that we had to repair. And that end of it as well. Okay, so we welded that back on there. This consists of an inside and no, it just has, these are the wheels for the Pack 40. Any Warhammer stuff I acquire, used, and stripped the paint off. Now, with that said, I don't do Games Workshop miniatures, but I do like, I think they're high quality. They're just not something that appeals to me. It's not like, oh, they're garbage. No, I think they're well done. And as a matter of fact, back when they were first Citadel, one thing that was really cool about them is, if you compare them to something like Ral Partha, is they came with those cool bases, which at the time were kind of state of the art. And the base that went between both legs, there usually was written or cast into the molding of what it was. It might have been, warrior girl or barbarian or, elf or what. And I thought that was pretty cool. They're not garbage. They're just, the system that company uses. Oh boy, these almost fit in here without any glue. So we're going to drop some glue in here. And we're going to put this one here. And this is the side that's broken. This one up here. We're going to flip it. And then we'll go back. So the only weight this thing is carrying is just the one side. And I think it'll work out okay. All right, so here's the two axles. And the bottom of that. All right. I'm not worried about the drive thing. That's just going to get in the way right now at this point of trying to glue this on here. All right. And so this is going to go on here on top of these make-believe leaf springs, and the same thing here. Now, I'm going to take the one of these that's the most not melted, the one that was cast the best, which isn't saying a whole lot because they're cast pretty poorly. And I don't really want to remove it, but I do want to find out, see if I got something precise enough to measure it. It didn't have to be 100% on, but so we're going to go from okay, so from the height to the bottom is approximately 3 millimeters. So I'm going to see if I got some basswoods about 3 millimeters high. If not, you can cut it down. So, oh, I moved the wood here. Perfect. Or metal or something like that. It's just a lot easier to mess with this. And I'd like for it to be relatively thick width-wise, so we're not struggling trying to get all this to connect to itself. So this is a candidate. Square would be perfect. This is a candidate. I bet one of those two will work. All right, let's go with these two. This is the square one, and this is the horizontal. So this is more of the correct height. This one's going to be sturdier, I think. Let's go with the one that's the correct height. Grabbing a beer. I can't have one of those. I'd fall asleep. All right. Widthwise. Right there. All right, we're going to make 2 of these. All right. Now, we could go kind of fancy. And I think I am going to do that. Now, let's see if this same size fits up here. Yeah, it's going to be close enough. We'll cut 4 of these. We'll do the ones on the back first. I've never done this before, but I'm sure it will turn out fine for what we need to do. Okay, so we're going to take 2 of these and we're going to move them over here. That's going to be the one for the front. All right, let's put this stick away. And this will work fine. It's just a matter of, will this sit on here without falling off? But it's going to be sturdier than the damn spring thing on here. All right, I'm going to find the midpoint, and I can do this just by looking at it. Okay, that's where I'm going to want to attach that axle. Now, that axle does have some width to it, so I wouldn't mind putting a little notch in there, so when I lay it on there, it's not rolling back and forth. Okay, just a minimum depth. So when we set this axle on top of here, it's not, I can kind of line it up easier. All right. And just for yucks, I'm going to take some of this and taper it down. Okay, so this is our rudimentary wooden leaf spring. Cuts really well, actually. All right, so we're gonna super glue this in place, there and there, and we're gonna super glue it with a fast super glue. God help me. So we're going to get some of this super glue. Yeah, this is the only one I have. I don't have any more of the little one. I'm going to use the bottom of this freaking base. I don't think I'm going to use these bases. I got 3 of these sand fuckers, so we'll use one of the sand fuckers. All right. And that little toothpick should be around here somewhere. Here she is. Just going to go from there to there. And then the same thing here. And I'm going to put one axle on there before I decide to do it the same way at the front. Now this looks pretty flimsy, but that suspension's even flimsier because this does not have good pilot holes to line it up on the original one. All right, we're going to want this hole facing like this. So this is, don't be getting in my shit. This is going to be glued like so. Okay, so it's still kind of leaf springy shaped. I can actually paint those like there's leaf springs in there. I'm going to go ahead and glue this where it goes. Although I'm going to need more of this stuff. I mean, there's people that make trucks like this just out of fucking wood, so why wouldn't I be able to just retrofit things? I got lots of pieces of wood. Put a dot there, a dot there. Make sure this is lined up correctly. In case I want to put that axle in there, which I'll probably put it in there. The drive shaft. Okay. Now let's do the same thing at the front. Okay, this is going to go from here to here. Same thing. Take the midpoint. That just, I figured, trying to balance it on there and not having it in a notch, going to be a nightmare situation. Not a nightmare, but I'm going to be doing a lot of struggling for no reason whatsoever. Okay, this little piece comes out. It's easy enough to do. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and taper this. As a leaf spring would be. And this should fit on there. Same way in that notch. So let's take this. Let's just do one side at a time. Interesting that this is not lined up exactly right. In other words, it goes over more to one side than the other, and I'm not sure I could compensate for that. I would have to cut more of that notch out. So that the wheels will still be centered inside. I wonder why that's the case. I think I know why. It's going to need to be glued to that point, not to the other one. All right, no problem. Worst case scenario, I might have to replace this piece. All right, we're going to glue there, and then we're going to attach it there. And then we're going to glue there, and we're going to attach it over here. Now it fits right, but this is a little lower. That's fine. We'll carve this one down a little bit too. There we go. Now we are in the correct location. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and put some of that glue here. And go ahead and put some of that glue here. And then we're also going to go ahead and drop some of that glue on that joint there. Which I thought was the one that broke, but it may have actually been this one over here. Now, hey, it may not be perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than not using it. It's either that or you don't get a truck. Oh, you don't like this truck? Walk then. Okay. Let's put the cab together. 2 halves of the cab. Here's the bench seat for it. Here's one. If we're missing 1/2 of the cab, then we're done. All right, let's make sure that we're giving this thing a fair shake. Let's kill that. That's in the way. If you only have 1/2 of the cab, well, we're done with this truck then, if that's the case. Can't manufacture a whole 1/2 of a cab. Maybe it'll turn up at a later time, maybe it won't. Yep. Okay, well, I guess we'll call it. My daughter wanted to get my attention anyway, so I guess that works out. Yeah, it may turn up here, but you know, I didn't even get this. I only got this with 1/2 of a box, anyways, and some of the pieces were missing, so or miscast. All right, folks. Well, that's going to be it. We'll see you guys in the morning for a Sunday morning edition, and